Hey, it's Mike Hambright with FlipNerd.com. Welcome back for another exciting VIP interview where I interview some of the most successful real estate investing experts and entrepreneurs in our industry to help you learn and grow. Today, I'm joined by a new friend of mine, JP Moses. A lot of you might already know him. He's a veteran real estate investor. He's done a lot of deals. But he's the owner of reitips.com, and he's really just a great guy that goes out of his way to share information with the real estate investing industry and community. And he's really been awesome at teaching and adding value in our industry and really has it figured out that if you help other people, that comes back around to you. So today, in fact, we're going to talk about the importance of giving back as a real estate investor and being an active participant to help improve our industry. So it's going to be a great show. Before we get started, though, let's take a moment to recognize our featured sponsors. RealtyMogul.com is an online marketplace for real estate investing, connecting borrowers and capital from accredited and institutional investors. Get a rehab loan fast and close in as little as 10 days. Rates start as low as 9%. We'd also like to thank National Real Estate Insurance Group, the nation's leading provider of insurance to the residential real estate investor market. From individual properties to large-scale investors, National Real Estate Insurance Group is ready to serve you. Please note, the views and opinions expressed by the individuals in this program do not necessarily reflect those of FlipNerd.com or any of its partners, advertisers, or affiliates. Please consult professionals before making any investment or tax decisions, as real estate investing can be risky. Hey, JP, welcome to the show.
How's it going?
Good. So a lot of folks know that I didn't say it in your intro. We can't have the entire show be an introduction, but obviously you're a podcaster as well, and you're involved with a lot of other people's shows, and we were just kind of discussing how it feels weird sometimes to normally be the person who is running a show but to be on somebody else's show.
It feels really weird, so I'm going to have to be answering questions instead of asking them. Yeah. So if I turn the tables by accident and I start grilling you with my own questions, you're going to have to stop me and say, no, this is my show.
All right, we'll work it out, my friend. Well, hey, for those that don't know you, or for even maybe there's probably a lot of people that know you that don't know you as well as they will after the show, why don't you tell us your background and who you are?
All right. I'll try and give you just the Reader's Digest version. I am a product of Rich Dad, Poor Dad, but not the seminars that they do, just the book, Rich Dad, Poor Dad. Back in probably 2000, I think it was, late 99 maybe, I read it, and it just messed me up. I've always had kind of an entrepreneurial bent, but didn't really know how to channel it. Got involved in a lot of multi-levels and whatever just happened to come along, whatever bright, shiny object there was in front of me.
Yeah.
I probably gave it a shot until I read Rich Dad, Poor Dad, and I said, you know what? This guy, Robert Kiyosaki, apparently started in real estate, so I'll get started in real estate. So I got on the internet and learned everything I could at the time, and everybody said, and they still say this, but I remember one thing I consistently saw over and over again was people saying you need to join your local real estate association. Mm-hmm. So I looked around, and we didn't actually have one in Memphis, so I said, I don't know much about real estate yet, but I kind of know how to herd cats. So I'll start a RIA.
Yeah.
So I started our local real estate investors association, Memphis Investors Group. And as I grew my real estate business, I grew that organization. It's a nonprofit RIA, and learned a whole heck of a lot through that experience of not only the kind of the giver's gain philosophy, which is, I know, part of what you said that would be good for us to talk about today,
yeah.
But the value of being an advocate for your fellow real estate investor, your fellow man, really, when it comes down to it, just people in general,
yeah.
Rather than always looking out for yourself. I think it was Zig Ziglar that said, the more you help people, the more accomplish what they want, the more you'll accomplish what you want.
Yeah. Yeah, I would say, I've had a lot of RIA club owners. We're obviously a huge proponent of RIA clubs at FlipNerd.com. And, I found that there's a lot of people that really started the club or became active in their club before they really would be considered an expert in real estate by any means. They were just, like you said, they were organizers. They were great at pulling people together. And, I think a lot of people, you probably felt this way too, and I feel this way sometimes. Sometimes I throw myself into something like that because I know it'll hold me accountable to being successful at you're kind of, people expect you to be an expert, right? So it kind of forces your hand to become an expert at real estate investing if you're the, kind of leader of the group.
And I didn't BS my way through it. I was open and honest about where I was in the career. I didn't pretend. There was no faking it till I made it.
Right.
But one of the other things I really learned inadvertently through that process is the immense power of positioning yourself as a leader or a center of influence in your area. And I look back, and almost every single real estate deal I have ever done, and that's over 250 deals in the last 14, almost 15 years, has in some way involved somebody that I knew, met, got connected with through the RIA group.
Yeah, that's great.
And that was accelerated greatly by the fact that I was present, I was seen, whether I was checking people in at the door, whether I was in front of the room running the meeting, or whether I was running a subgroup. The value to me, which I wasn't really going for, but it was definitely experienced. People just knew, JP's active in the business. And my first 2 private lenders actually came about as a direct result of that.
Sure. That's great.
As well.
Yeah, the networking opportunities for sure are great. Yeah. So, for a lot of, why don't you tell us a little bit more about another some of the other things you do, which is you provide a lot of content for our industry, and actually a lot of people may not even know that you're behind the scenes. There's a lot of other big name people that you're helping produce content for, all of which is kind of enriching our industry. But talk a little about the importance of really kind of being an advocate for our industry and helping provide goodwill, I guess.
Well, a lot of people don't know that all the different pies that I happen to have my hands in, and it just kind of happened by accident over the years. The hat that I wore as the guy who ran the RIA group, as I've already mentioned, was kind of like this advocate for my fellow man. I really didn't want to position myself as a real estate guru, and I still don't position myself that way. Not because I think guru is a bad word,
right?
But it's just not the role that I see myself in. I see myself as not somebody standing on the mountaintop telling you how to climb. I see myself as the guy going back down the mountain beside you and walking up beside you and showing you the path that I've already taken and that other people have already taken.
Yeah.
And so there's a real sense of I'm here to look out not just for myself but other people's interests. And in doing that, you really make you build, as a natural byproduct of that, you build immense rapport and trust with people. And because of that, I've always had a really strong, thriving referral business in addition to any other lead generation that I've done. I also, as I retired from leadership in the investors group in 2006, that's when I started reitips.com, which is my blog. And I kind of wore the same hat, this advocate for my fellow man hat. And as I've put blog posts out and content there, I've always looked at what I put out through that lens. Is this actually something that can help either from my experience or somebody else's? And I think because of that, over the years, I've had a lot of other people, colleagues in the industry who are out in the interwebs. They've come to me and said, "Hey, you really do good content, and can you do content for us or with us?" So one thing has led to another over the years, and so I've got a team of people. I kind of accidentally built this side business to my real estate business. So I've got 2 different companies. One is my real estate company, and the other is a publishing company where we create awesome content. I call myself the director of awesomeness.
There you go.
For Real Estate Mogul and for Patrick Riddle and a few other guys that we're behind the scenes on who probably don't want me to let people know that we're behind the scenes on, but
yeah. Well, we'll bleep that part out now. Actually,
yes.
we won't. No, but hey, I mean, everybody has a team. Everybody has people behind them that, I think part of what we should talk about today is just the importance of building a team and being surrounded by good people to help. Because, I do this show, but I'm not creating the videos. I'm not editing. There's a whole bunch of stuff that I'm not doing. I'm just doing, the fun part. But I think all those things are important as people figure out how to find their way in this business. That nobody can do this business alone. Whether you're a real estate investor or producing content like we do, you can't do that alone. There's no way.
Yeah, I mean, you can start out on your own, sure, and most people do, right? You can't start out with this amazing team in most cases, but you're not gonna be in there long term on your own,
right?
Unless you're not trying to build a business. This is kind of a recent realization that I've had, and that is that not everybody flips houses or buys rentals because they're trying to build a business. It's more like they just want to do a little something extra,
right?
And if that's the case, then you can do it by yourself.
Sure.
And you really don't need a team. You can just kind of, you're playing in real estate. It's a hobby. You're a real estate hobbyist.
Right.
And there's nothing wrong with that.
Right.
But if you want to build a business, then you absolutely have to think in terms of not only what can I and should I take off my plate because it doesn't play to my strengths, my personal strengths, but also how can I build how can I identify what the other seats on the bus are that I need to fill, and then find the right people to fit in those seats on the bus?
Sure.
And in the publishing business, over the last 2 years, I've really hit the sweet spot on that, I feel like. And I've got a very small, completely remote virtual team. I never leave my house, and they all work from their homes as well. But we have a great culture. And they work really well together, and everybody knows the big picture, but they also know their piece of it, and they know how to do their piece of it, and it's systematized, and we have best practices, and the whole thing that I kind of, 5 years ago, if you told me that we would have a company with best practices and
owner's manual,
and like an assembly line of who does what in what order, I would have been like, wow, that sounds great, but that sounds like fantasy land, because my personality is not naturally wired that way.
Yeah.
I've had to learn it the hard way through the school of hard knocks.
Yeah.
On the real estate side, we are not quite as systematized because I reinvented the business about a year ago, and we're in the process right now. I've got a guy who's handling the day-to-day operations of that, and we're just now at the point where we're going to hire an assistant to begin helping him, and we're going to hire some people to put out bandit signs. But right now, he's kind of going through the necessary learning curve of working too much so that he learns what he shouldn't be doing, so we can outsource those things to somebody else first.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, JP, I sense that have a lot of similarities in that we like to, the reality is the show that I've done, you're something around 100 shows, 60, 159, 160, somewhere around there. Wow. And I've actually, not really made a dime on this show. Of course, we have some things that are coming out that we hope to monetize, but I just enjoy doing it. I enjoy teaching people. I enjoy educating people. I enjoy meeting people. And I want you to share a little, I think you're probably the same way. I want you to share some of why that's important in the business of real estate investing, is to try to add value. Because we were talking a little bit before we started recording. I think a lot of people, since real estate investing tends to be kind of a feast or famine business, I think there's a lot of lone wolves out there that don't do anything to add value to anybody other than themselves because they're always worried about the famine. But I think it's important to add value in this industry. And this industry so sorely needs people that are, I don't want to say that people are bad people, but it needs more good people that are showing their good side more often, if you will.
We need more good guys. We definitely do.
There's a question in there somewhere, but I think what I was hoping you could share is just the importance of, in our industry, of kind of giving back and adding value to people, and just knowing that that's going to come back around to you somehow, and also knowing that it's just the right thing to do.
Well, I almost want to say, rather than giving back, I think the concept of giving back, while it has value, it implies that you kind of wait until you've arrived, and then you turn around and you give back to the people. I think it's more of an ongoing giver's gain that I think is the philosophy that we should have. And I think giver's gain may be a trademark term by Bob Berg or something like that, but whatever. I think you can get intrinsically what it means. It means that, it's kind of a spin on the golden rule, right? Not only do you want to do unto others what you would like them to do to you, but the next thing there would be that when you do unto others what you would like them to do to you, then you will begin to receive a benefit, whether you are looking for that benefit or not. You will begin to experience that benefit, and that benefit is in both a personal fulfillment type of way, which has huge value.
Yeah.
But it's also a very tangible benefit. So on the inside, the benefit is you can sleep really, really well at night, knowing that you're not standing on other people's heads and faces to achieve your success. You may be standing on some people's shoulders voluntarily, but that's a different thing. You can also just find a place of gaining great personal fulfillment out of serving. I think, who is it? Boatwright that says, be a servant. Remember, be a servant, right? I love that. And our other mutual friend, Sean McCloskey, who you've had on your show, he signs his emails with give first. And I really, really love that. Those are two fantastic ways to say what I think is the sentiment here, which is become the type of person who isn't always looking out for what you can give, and know that you will receive at some point, whether it's immediately or whether it's in the future, and whether or not you can connect the dots. But you can also, a lot of times you can connect the dots, and here's how, and I've kind of alluded to it a little bit. But as you step in and you serve and you give, a few key things begin to happen. Number one, the law of reciprocity kicks in, right? I've had people ask me probably hundreds of times by now, advice on how to get a mentor. There's guys at the RIA group who are experienced, the old dogs who probably have every newbie in the group. As soon as they walk in, they realize that guy's an old dog and I want to get to know that guy. Right. And they walk up and they say, hey, Mr. Old Dog, can I take you to lunch and pick your brain?
Right.
Well, don't do that. That's not giving first. That's going to somebody and saying, hey, Mr. So-and-so, I'm needy and I want to politely ask you if I can take from you. Instead, if you go with, I'm going to give first, I'm going to find a way to add value to this guy's life in some way, in some form or fashion. When you do that, by nature of that very fact, the law of reciprocity will win in your favor, and you will find yourself with someone who is much more open to giving you input and advice from their sage storehouse of sage wisdom,
right, than
if you go to them and try to ask them buying them lunch doesn't cut it. That doesn't qualify, because they can buy their own dang lunch.
Right.
So whether you're a newer investor and you deploy that strategy in that way, whether it's just how can if every time you interact with anybody, if you ask yourself, how can I find a way to give value to this person? Yeah. In some form or fashion, that law of reciprocity is going to serve you really, really well.
Yeah, I think people understand that if somebody comes to you and says, hey, can I basically have an hour of your time, as if you had nothing else to do, versus, you've probably heard it before too, somebody will say something like, is there anything I can do to help you? And maybe it's open-ended, or in your business, or and it almost kind of makes you step back, or like, did they really just say that? Because you're so used to hearing, can I take something from you? And not that a lot of us aren't willing to give. A lot of us are willing to give, but I think it's the approach for sure. I tend to want to help people more that seem more genuine in their effort to kind of give my time, if you will.
You know what, though? With that one question, is there anything I can do to help you? When somebody asks me that now, it actually kind of stresses me out, because I feel like I'm on the spot and I have to come up with something, or say like, no. And I know also enough to know that like they're trying to dial into the law of reciprocity. So my guard goes up a little bit. So I think that's a step in the right direction. But I think over and above that, even I would say, just find a way. Don't even ask. Just pay attention. Have a conversation with them. People love to talk about themselves. So ask them about themselves. What is your business like today compared to what it was 5 years ago? Right. What have you learned this last year in your business that as a newer investor that I could learn from? You're standing there after the meeting and you just say, hey, what's the last deal you did? I'm just curious because I'd like to know what your world is like. You get people talking about themselves. The more they talk, the more your radar, which hopefully is up, can look for a way to try and add some value, even if that value is only in listening. That in and of itself, in helping somebody feel like you really care about hearing what they have to say, right, and that you're not just there to suck energy from them, is a lot of times enough to build that connection and that rapport that you can build upon further. And it crosses all areas of life as well, not just real estate.
Yeah, that's a great tip. I mean, I think with your experience of leading a RIA club, one of the things I tell everybody is I think, generally speaking, this business people have heard me say this before, it can become a very lonely business if you let it. And I think even a lot of even the more successful real estate investors kind of have their head down and they're doing their thing. And if they go to a RIA club meeting, they're usually willing to, in that time, I'll open up and tell you anything you want to know. Now, if you ask me to go meet with you for 2 hours before the RIA club meeting, that's a different story. But once I'm there, and I think it's, you could probably speak to that. A lot of people are willing to share whatever they know while you're there in that venue because they came to share.
Yeah, I would totally agree with that, and I would say maybe that extends to the meeting after the meeting too, if there is one. If they, a lot of times
the meeting at the bar, is that what you're talking about?
Right, yeah, or the restaurant across the street, or whatever it is. We have one of those, and I'm sure you guys, and you're RIA locally there do too. Most of the time, people end up having some kind of meeting after the meeting, and so if you can go to that, then it would extend in probably a much less stressful way the ability to get people to open up and make connections that matter. But I feel like I need to actually change how I share my story a little bit because I've had the opportunity many times to talk about my beginnings as an investor. And part of that story, I didn't get into it here, but part of that story is I identified. Now, keep in mind, there was no RIA group. There was no watering hole for investors at the time.
Yeah.
And I happened to know a friend of a friend who was a real estate investor, and he flipped houses. So I approached that guy, and I did what I just told everybody not to do. I said, "Hey, I've heard about you. Nice to meet you. I want to be like you. I want to be an investor like you. I'm just trying to figure out how to do it. I'd love to take you to lunch, take you to breakfast, and just hear what you do and how you do it, if that's okay." And he was very flattered, right? But he wasn't in a position where he constantly had people asking him that.
Yeah.
So he took me up on it. But I had somebody turn the tables on me in a sense recently, and it was at our last RIA meeting. And if she watches this podcast, I'm not dogging you, I promise. But she said, "Hey, remember in your story when you shared that this is how you got to know your first investor? I'd like to do that with you and just be able to call you up and ask you questions about real estate deals and things like that." And I was just like, oh, using my own words against me.
Yeah.
So anyway, that's just a little side tangent, but be aware of that, guys. And I don't mean to make the whole thing about, how not to offend potential mentors necessarily. That's just one subset of this dynamic. But if we take a step back to your original question, Mike, I think the value of finding ways to give in general positions you as someone that people want to be connected to. Being able to serve shows and demonstrates to other people that you're not just in it for yourself. And just think about it. It's kind of common sense. When you see somebody who you can tell they're very protective of every contact they have, and they don't talk, they don't share too much, they keep everything real close to the vest, it feels yucky. And there's really no way to hide that when that's your philosophy and your stance.
Right.
Whereas when somebody, they give pretty freely, and they don't maybe give up the whole thing, but they want to help people, and you can tell that's their vibe. Those are the people that, big picture, I think, achieve a heck of a lot more success than the people who have a scarcity mindset of, if I give away my secrets or my, whatever my secret letter is, or who I'm mailing to or whatever,
right,
then I'm going to lose all my business.
Yeah.
It doesn't work that way.
Funny thing is there for anybody that thinks they have secrets in this industry, there really are very few.
Yeah.
You think you have a silver bullet, but then you find out that, somebody else has been doing it for years, or there's very few things that are unknown at this point.
Yeah. That's absolutely true.
I think, why don't you talk a little bit about how really this goes above and beyond just your kind of fellow real estate investor. I think that there's a lot of people that, I'll give an example. For a few years that my wife, every time we sold a house, she would give money to a certain charity. Mm-hmm. Or for a while it was she would invest a certain amount. I say invest, we never get anything back out of it, but she would basically put some money on Kiva for other real estate investors around the world, so some or other investors or entrepreneurs around the world somewhere to kind of start a business or help fuel their business or whatever thing. And my wife is awesome, but I think just that mentality of something good happened to me and I want to kind of give back now, and that's just how the world goes round. I think that mentality really helps drive there's a lot of people in real estate. You and I know a lot of the same people that are some big name people that you wouldn't know it until you met them. You might assume that they're, a guru out there that doesn't care about anything other than themselves. But there's some great people that are spending a lot of their money and giving back and running charities and doing a lot of good things. And when you start to hear some of those stories, it's awesome. And gosh, wouldn't it be awesome if someday somebody was saying how awesome you were for the things that you're doing to give back to society in general?
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. What you're saying actually reminds me of a conversation I had with Sean Terry maybe a year ago or so, where we were talking about the concept of the tithe. Mm-hmm. Now, I know there's people of all different faiths, or maybe no faith at all, who tune into this podcast. So, I don't mean to get all spiritual and stuff. I think that there is this idea of the tithe. It extends to anybody, regardless of whether you're a different faith or have no faith at all. It's the idea that if you take a tithe means a tenth. If you take as a standard a 10% of whatever comes in, and you give it away, no strings attached, and you give it with a cheerful heart, and you do it without expecting anything in return. The somewhat miraculous byproduct of that is that it amplifies everything else in a positive way in your business. It's almost hard to do it without expecting anything in return if you believe that philosophy, because this is going to come back to me in some way.
Right.
But I think that I think it's a very important concept, and you don't have to have any faith in order to apply it and experience the benefit of it. I can tell you that there's been times in my life when I didn't feel like I could give 10% of what we had earned and give it away. I didn't feel like I could afford it, and I did it anyway. There's been times I didn't, right? But then there's times that I did, and somehow I always was able to make ends meet, and I always felt like I'm doing not only the right thing, but something that will be honored, something that will come back to me in some form or fashion. And I feel like there's actually, I'm not going to be able to tell it, but you should, if you ever have Sean on your show again, you should ask him about his personal experience with that, because he has a pretty powerful story that he told me at the time of that concept. So I think, 10% I think is just kind of a minimum target. I think the more you can give away, I think the more you are going to experience the richness, the rich life that there is to experience that isn't really related to money at all.
Yeah,
I think that's a core value and a core philosophy that I have, and I guess it sounds like you have too.
Well, I think it's whether it's money or time, or a lot of us have found it easier to give away money than time because our time is so slim.
Yeah.
But I think
well, that gets back into serving,
yeah,
right? Giving time.
Whoever's listening to this message, if you could find a way to give back meaningfully, whether that's money or time, whether it's in a Facebook group where somebody's asking a question and needs help, or whether it's in forums somewhere or anywhere, I just think it really, if you kind of go out of your way to kind of make somebody's day or give back or help somebody somewhere, that always comes back around, and it just makes life more fun, right?
Makes it more worth living,
Yeah.
I think.
Yeah.
Personally.
Yeah.
I would say too, I want to challenge everyone who's listening and watching this to seriously consider integrating into your own life and into your own core values, becoming someone who looks out for your fellow person around you. As an investor, you can apply that, and just as a human being, you can apply that. But maybe the most, the simplest within context of our topic and our conversation here, just applying it to your fellow real estate investor. Who can I walk alongside? Who can I invest in personally? And in doing that, you're gonna find great tangible benefit and great benefit inside as well. So I'll issue that as a challenge.
Laying down the gauntlet.
it's worthwhile, man.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Well, JP, hey, we just have a couple minutes left, and I appreciate you being with us today. Any kind of final words of wisdom you want to give to people that, since we are a real estate focused show, to say people that are listening to the show, whether they're veterans or they're newer folks, because we certainly have both that are listening, in terms of what they can do to live a kind of a fuller life in 2015 as we kind of sit here at the beginning of the year.
How to live a fuller life.
Shower us with your wisdom.
Okay. Well, in addition to what we've already said, I think I would say you will live a fuller life. Well, it's really just restating what we've said in so many words. You will live a fuller, more fulfilling life as you take the opportunity to invest and to serve and to give, and you walk alongside other people in the business and in life, and you give sacrificially. I think that's important too. It needs to not just necessarily be out of your abundance, but I think there's something very special about giving sacrificially sometimes when you don't necessarily feel like you have the time for someone, but you give it anyway. You don't necessarily feel like you have excess money, but you give it anyway. You don't feel like you even know enough to be able to help another investor, and yet you do try to help them with whatever knowledge you have anyway. And in doing so, you will experience some of the law of reciprocity paying you back. You'll experience a lot of deep, rich personal fulfillment, and you just like life better.
Yeah, no, that's great. I want to kind of piggyback on one thing you just said. Is I think there's a lot of people in this business that assume that they can't add value back into the real estate investing community because they're new or they're newer. But you also kind of made a comment earlier about just asking somebody, tell me about your last deal. And it kind of hit me, a while back when I'm in this business, and I'm just, we've done a fair number of deals, and then some of these houses I hardly even go to. I don't really even think about it. It just kind of happens. And I'm like, wow, what if I could just say, just go to this address and, kind of recreate what we did in terms of what you thought the rehab was. I mean, you could turn a project you've done, even a single house, into kind of a lesson for somebody else. Or say, yeah, we're rehabbing this house. I'm going to meet over there tomorrow at noon to check on my contractor. Just come walk through with me and I'll tell you kind of what we're doing here. I'm kind of learning along the way. So I think it makes
for the experienced investors, a couple of specific things I think of where you could deploy this. There's a guy in our RIA group named Arnold Dormer who embodies this, I think. And what he'll do is he doesn't give anybody a free lunch, but he puts out there. Actually, I'll give you two examples of this. These are very experienced investors, kind of local legends in the Memphis area, older guys. And one of them, Arnold, he will tell anybody in the RIA group, you can drive around with me for one day for $100. I'll donate that $100 to the charity of your choice. But you just are basically embed yourself with me for the day. And wherever he goes, they can ask him whatever questions they want. And that's a way for him, without really taking him out of what he's doing and like sitting down for long periods of time and talking to people, he can add some real value to a newer investor's life and for a very reasonable amount of money that all goes to charity. And I think that's just a beautiful way to embody this kind of service giving posture. Another guy, Richard Scarborough, he actually still does some of his own rehab work. He's not a hardcore rehabber, but he has a lot of rental properties, nicer rental properties. And he'll say, somebody asks him to go to lunch or something like that. He'll say, no, but this Friday I'm going to be at my house, one of my new properties, and we're going to be painting it for about 2 hours. If you want to come paint with me, then you can ask me whatever you want. And so again, he gets them giving. He gets them kind of teaching them right then and there to not just ask for a free lunch and not just think that you can buy my lunch and have all the attention that you want, but I think that's two really great examples of how more experienced investors can apply this philosophy.
Absolutely. Well, JP, hey, thanks again for your time today. If folks want to learn more about what you're doing and follow you along, I know you've obviously have reitips.com. Anywhere else they could go check you out?
reitips.com and reiology.com. And for what it's worth, at REI Tips, I have a bunch of free real estate forms that we give away there that people seem to really enjoy. These are just the forms that I've used in my business over the last 15 years. Contracts and checklists and
awesome.
Templates and things. So people can pick that up if it's something that would benefit them. And reiology.com is the podcast that I do. Although I haven't done an episode in a while, I need to slap my own hand there.
Yeah. Awesome, man. Well, we'll add the links down below the video here for folks that didn't quite catch that or didn't write it down. But JP, thanks again for your time. Definitely appreciate you being on today, my friend.
Thanks, man. It's my pleasure.
All right.
Appreciate it.
Stay in touch. Are you a member of FlipNerd.com, the most robust real estate investing platform in existence, where you can find off-market wholesale deals and great vendors literally in your market? You can get access to advice from experts and learn about local clubs and events right in your backyard. If not, please visit FlipNerd.com and register for a free account. You can register in less than a minute. It's pretty much the coolest site that's ever existed in the real estate investing industry. So get on over to FlipNerd.com.